So something a little bit different here. A question came up asking which application I use for a video. And I think this was specifically in reference to one of the live stream videos. But I'll go ahead and explain what I use for the live streams and then what I use for the pre-recorded videos. Not to suggest that I have some awesome technical setup. It's really more just to share some of the things I've tried. But also, if you all have suggestions out there, or hey, if any company wants to send me free stuff, I won't object to that either. But anyway, to start with, for the live streams, I actually have two different devices going. One of them is my regular old laptop, a Mac. Then I also have an iPad. The iPad is what you see here on the screen capture. And the reason for doing this with the live streams is that, well, I can't figure out a way to do all of it on one device. Meaning a way to share my screen while also being able to see any of the questions that come in during the live stream. And so what I use is a somewhat complicated setup, but the best one I've been able to figure out so far, and that is to set up a Zoom meeting, then live stream that to YouTube. And so I'm connected into Zoom through, again, the two devices, where the camera and the microphone are coming from my laptop, and then the screen share is coming from my iPad. Now, a nice thing about being able to use the iPad is that I can use the Apple Pencil, which is certainly better as far as writing on the screen goes than my other tool, the one that I use in the pre-recorded videos. Now, why do I not use the Apple Pencil for those other videos? Well, I can't do it, or at least I can't figure out a good way to do it, because if I used Apple Pencil for the videos, that would mean that I was using my iPad, which doesn't have a whole lot of storage, but it does create very, very large video files. And so then in order to edit those, I'd have to go through a complicated series of steps to somehow transfer those very large files over to my laptop for editing, and it just adds another step in an already sort of complicated series of steps. So for the pre-recorded videos then, I use one of these Wacom tablets. So it's an external pad that plugs in through USB, and you've probably noticed that my writing isn't the greatest, and it's partly my own handwriting, but it's also just kind of challenging to use these tools because you're looking in one place, you're looking at your screen, but you're writing in another. So it does make it a little bit more difficult, but that said, it does the job. As far as the whiteboard sort of apps that I use, when I'm on the iPad, I use something called GoodNotes, which I think I paid $8 for. That was specifically recommended by a place where I teach some classes. They want everybody to use basically the same kind of tools. So I use that, and it does work well. And then on my Mac, I use something called OpenBoard. It's nothing fancy, but when you see this, that's part of OpenBoard. It's freeware, and I honestly should make a donation because of how much use I've gotten out of it. But this allows me to load PDFs and then write on the PDFs. There might be other apps that do this just as well, but I look for something that's simple and easy to use and that does what I need it to do, and this does it well enough for me for now. And then as for the audio, I previously used a Mackie condenser mic. So if you were to go back to the videos I made in 2022, they were made using this microphone or one similar to it, so a USB mic, but this one really is not so good, I'm going to say. It has a very thuddy kind of sound, and it seems to capture something in the way I pronounce S's that makes them sound like F's. Maybe it works better for other people, but I also found that the signal was relatively low. People would complain about the volume, and I'd be saying, well, I've got it as high as it'll go, and it still wasn't loud enough. So I'm going to say that the microphone I'm using now is a huge upgrade. So they're not paying me to say this, but this Audio-Technica AT2020, yes, you pay a little bit more, and perhaps you could pay even more and get an even better microphone, but for me, this one really does the trick. It really improved the sound quality, and as long as I have the settings right, I don't have any problems with students complaining about low volume levels. Certainly, if you're going to have a USB mic, you also need some kind of mic stand and a pop filter if you're going to start making videos. And you might say, I don't want to pay for a pop filter, but you really need it, because otherwise you're going to have plosives all over the place and it's going to create problems. And so that is helpful. But really, all told, if you wanted to get up and running, provided that you had a decent laptop, it's only a few $100s worth of stuff, but you can make it incremental. You could start with using your built-in mic, and then you can upgrade to something else if you decide that you need it. And that's kind of what I've done, is just sort of figure it out as I go along. And again, as for the live streaming, I'm still trying to figure out a better option than Zoom. It seems like so many of the live streaming platforms are really geared toward gamers and not geared toward people who are trying to annotate on screen. So again, any recommendations for something better than Zoom? Again, Zoom has worked okay, but there is a delay built in when you live stream from Zoom. And that means that if a student asks me a question, it takes 30 or 40 seconds for that question to reach me. And it can make it seem like I'm maybe ignoring the question, which I don't want to do. So thanks for the question. I hope this helped. Again, any recommendations or suggestions or further questions, leave those in the comments, and I will do my best to respond.